your attention. Good afternoon. On behalf of Brigadier General Matthew Mataya, 11th Theater Aviation Commander, Colonel Thomas Caples, 244th Aviation Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Doring, 7th Squadron, 6th Cavalry Regimental Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Cynthia Summers, 373rd Combat and Sustainment Support Battalion Commander, and their respective staff members, we welcome all the distinguished guests. Nathan Cook, Deputy Regional Director for Senator Conran's office, Ray, Conroe Chief of Police, Honorable Howard Kravitz, Mayor, Panorama Village, President, Local Military Chapter, Colonel Retired Robert Poland, Army Aviation Association of America, Armadillo Chapter, President, Loretta Geik, Citizens Recognition Ceremony. I am Major Michael Odom, and I will be the Master of Ceremony for today's event. Please stand for the entrance of the warrior citizens and the introduction of the official party. Texas State Representative, Brigadier General, Lieutenant Colonel Cynthia Summers, Commander, 373rd Combat Sustainment Support Battalion. Command Sergeant Major Keith Miller, Command Sergeant Major, 373rd Combat Sustainment Support Battalion.
Right. Face. Forward. Line. Over. Hold. Right. Face.
Support of this church and of this community. We know sacrifices have been made by both the military and their families. Lord, may the refreshment of your Holy Spirit
And President George W. Bush to honor our warrior citizens who have served in the global war on terror. The Welcome Home Warrior Citizen Award Program provides an appropriate, timely, and enduring memento to soldiers and their families. Through this program, we convey in a small way our nation's gratitude for their selfless service and sacrifice in support of the global war on terror. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Colonel Thomas Caples, Commander, 244th Aviation Brigade.
The last time I was here for Lieutenant Colonel Doring's change of command, it was 96 degrees. We were all sweating and couldn't drink enough water. So it was quite a change when we got off the plane today. A welcome change, I have to say. Anyhow, we are here to welcome some terrific soldiers back home. from 7 of the 6th Cav Charlie Troop, and from the 215th Quartermaster. I will try to keep my remarks short today, because today is not about me, it's about these soldiers. They were ready when called, they stepped up to the plate, they mobilized on time, they deployed on schedule, and they provided some unique talents and expertise in the global war on terrorism. Our Charlie Troop 7/6 Cav soldiers mobilized in October of 2005. They deployed with the 10th Combat Aviation Brigade, and they deployed to Bagram, Afghanistan, and then moved a little farther north and provided close air support in support of the forces in the north. Throughout their 12 months in theater, they flew almost 5,000 combat hours, almost 4 times the operational tempo for a unit their size back here in the States. They returned 18 February of 2007 with 100% of their people and a job well done. From the 7/6 Cav who deployed with 7158, our sister battalion out of Olathe, Kansas, and they deployed to Pakistan and worked on the earthquake relief and did an absolutely phenomenal job as well. And finally, we have 7 soldiers from the 215th Quartermaster who deployed to OIF. They provided convoy security, they provided division-level supply support, transported massive amounts of fuel, and rebuilt roads in Iraq. All of these soldiers did so at no small price to themselves. They said goodbye to family and friends, left their jobs and employers, and the good life here in Conroe to provide a great service on behalf of the nation. Today is also about families, spouses, kids, brothers, moms, dads, all of you. I'm glad you're here because it's you are the folks who stayed home and kept the family unit intact. Your sacrifice is greatly appreciated, and we can't thank you enough. And our guest speaker, Representative Crichton, but before we ask him to come forward, I would ask all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to help me please welcome to the podium the commander of 7/6 Cav, Lieutenant Colonel Andy
Creighton, General Mattia, Command Sergeant Major Casher, Colonel Caples, and distinguished guests, most importantly today's honorees and their families. I'd like to thank you for participating in today's Welcome Home Warrior Citizen Ceremony. It's great to see all the smiling faces and see all of you here today on such a cold day. I feel like I'm up north, and we're not up north. I stand here today with an opportunity to tell a story about a group of soldiers who are some of the Army's newest combat veterans. It's a story of a small group of soldiers that got the call in October 2005 to support the country's fight on the global war on terrorism, specifically in Afghanistan. Charlie Troop 7/6 Cavalry received the mission and mobilized to Fort Hood, Texas to begin their pre-deployment training. The core of the unit came from right here in Conroe, but they also had some holes to fill in their ranks and received soldiers from places such as Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Utah. The unit was placed under the command of 1st and 183rd Aviation Regiment from the Idaho Army National Guard. They can tell you whether that was a good thing or not. Training was difficult and long. And finally, in February 2006, Charlie Troop had the opportunity to board a plane and head off for a year of unknowns in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. As the commander of 7/6 Cav, I can tell you I'm honestly proud to say that Charlie Troop performed their year of combat in an unparalleled manner and in unparalleled success. They supported the warfight in every mission role the Apache helicopter can be used, and probably some new ones as well. They proved their mettle day in, day out, and I'm sure it became a well-known fact among the Taliban and Al-Qaeda enemy that the Coyote Troop Apaches were not ones that they wanted to pick a fight with. From some of the video I've seen, I wouldn't want to pick the fight with them either. With all the flight missions and hours flown during the year, the aircraft were put through their paces many times over. And standing behind each aircraft were the enlisted and NCO crew members, ensuring that they were ready for mission. It is known that the pilots get the glory through their experts in flight, but every aviator knows that they are only as successful as the mechanics who maintain their aircraft. The standard was set early. The standard was set early and maintained throughout the year by Charlie Troop's enlisted force. Nearing the end of the year in combat, Charlie Troop ready for the much anticipated flight home to Fort Hood. They departed with all of their troops and returned all 35 troops. Let me back up calls, because we all know when you're engaging an active enemy, their mission is to take you out. Through God's protection and the fact that Charlie Troop did their job the right way is why they all made it back to us. So thank you, Charlie Troop, and welcome home. Aviation Regiment. They were literally bounced all over the two countries supporting refuel operations for 14 CH-47 Delta helicopters out of Olathe, Kansas. And last, I'd like to congratulate and thank the soldiers of the 215th Quartermaster who have served 4 tours of duty on the roads in Iraq, which by far is the most dangerous place to be over there. The easiest part of what we do as soldiers is our job. When you deploy, you're in a place where you perform. That's not the case with our families. They now face questions like, who will mow the lawn? Who will fix the car when it breaks down? How will I get the kids to all their activities alone? I can tell you that not only did our families succeed in handling this adversity and challenge, they thrived. I salute each and every one of you who are here today, standing behind your soldier and allowing them peace of mind to conduct their mission without having to worry about how things were going back here at home. We say our soldiers are heroes.
Tony is a Texas State Representative for Montgomery County, District Number 16, the Honorable Brandon Crichton.
Distinguished guests, elected officials, it's an honor to be here today to be a part of this ceremony. 2 Apache helicopters and 1 Black Hawk helicopter were sent on a mission. And while en route, one of the Apache helicopters experienced a mechanical problem and was forced to land outside of a friendly zone. I think any of these men and women would tell you, you really don't want to land your aircraft in an unfriendly zone. In fact, this Apache landed some 10 kilometers away in an area known to be densely occupied by the enemy. Well, the Black Hawk continued on its mission, but the first Apache stayed behind to provide cover for their friends who were forced to land the second Apache on the ground. A rescue helicopter was called, and the pilots continued to circle around in the air until the rescue arrived. After a while, the Apache started running low on fuel, dangerously low. So low that the pilots knew they had to leave immediately, or they would not have enough fuel to return. But the rescue had not yet arrived, and the pilots could no longer stay to protect those on the ground. These pilots were forced to make a quick decision. Not wanting to forsake their fellow soldiers, they decided to land and carry them out on the forward avionics bay, which is essentially on the outside of the aircraft. As I assumed, this was not a commonly practiced procedure. In fact, I'm told this quite possibly is the only Apache self-extraction performed in Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. I know this is just one example of how exceptionally brave. Not only are our troops protecting our lives, but they are protecting our freedoms and our democracy. Once said, and I quote, "You have enemies. Good. That means that you have stood up for our way of life." And I see these young, that's what's so special about the men and women we honor here today. As Army reservists, you selflessly put everything. Despite all the political rhetoric, as much as any politician can possibly find the air about the ways that my should have men and women such as yourselves, whose sense of patriotism and duty is so strong that you are willing to give your life to save ours and protect this country.
A two lapel pin set. One for the soldier with a lapel pin, which is to be worn exclusively by the citizen. At this time, I will ask that we all bow our heads in a moment of silence for our soldiers, who are honorably, and his daughters Cheyenne and Ivy. Sergeant Robert Salcido, his wife Magali, and their son Esteban. Sergeant Joseph Aronson and his wife Misty. Lisa and the children Elise and Claire. CB2 Ross, hubby, and his wife Ronnie.
Hey, just look over this way a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Okay. Okay, sir. First of all, your name?
CW4 Daniel Flores.
Okay, sir. Tell me a little bit about your trip there, trip back, and what it's like in between.
The trip there was to Afghanistan. Bagram Air Base is where we were deployed. I was deployed as a AH-64A Apache helicopter pilot, and I was also an instructor pilot for a full year in Afghanistan.
Okay, now what, I mean, you left out of here. I mean, it's been, what, back in 05, I believe it was. You know, got bounced around the U.S. for a little while, then finally went over there. What were you thinking the whole time waiting to go over there?
Well, everybody was, we were getting as much information as we could about Afghanistan, the enemy situation, and what we were going to be dealing with once we got there. We were expecting really a pretty slow year, and things got really hot once we got there. The day the aircraft left Fort Hood was actually an emotional moment. I was leaving my family for a good year into an actual combat zone, so yeah, there was, anxiety was high.
What's it like being away from your family for that much time? I mean, not able to see them weekends, days, anything.
Being away from your family that long, it hurts. I mean, I miss my family a lot, but the op tempo there was really fast, so the year went by pretty fast. There were a few slow days. I got to think about the family and things I could be doing back home in Houston, but when all's said and done, I miss my family a lot. You just can't replace that.
What about redeployment? Any chance of redeployment now or anything in that?
Well, we'll have to see. That's not up to me.
How do you think about something like that? I mean, what's it?
Right now,
about with having to leave the family again if you would have to redeploy.
Ooh, if I had to get redeployed right now, that would be pretty tough all the way around. For my family, for my employer, and for me myself, I'd do it if I was called to active duty again. I mean, that's part of my job, and off I'd go.
Any memorable moments while you're over there?
The best memorable moments were when the ground guys came back and thanked us for saving their lives, for supporting them, and just for doing a good job.
And what about getting back to the family? What did they, when you saw them the first time again?
Coming back to the family was absolutely an emotional moment. And when I saw them up in the bleachers at Fort Hood, and once we got released from our formation, and we just ran to each other, hugged each other, and hugged each other for a long time. It was a long time coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, what is your name?
Lisa Flores.
Lisa, tell me a little bit about what it was like the whole time he was gone.
Well, it was difficult. I mean, it's hard when a part of your life is missing, basically. But you know, we just kept busy and did what we normally did to make the time pass.
What about, I mean, seeing this on news every day, something happening over there, everything going on. Do you ever think about it? You know, what's going on?
I tried not to watch the news a lot, and Daniel and I kept in touch a lot, and that was, you know, that was my line to what was going on. I didn't keep the news on. I didn't want my kids to, you know, constantly be bombarded with images of, you know, things that were going on over there. So.
And how the kids do from this whole time?
They did great. We kept a lot of activities going, sports and church and a lot of different things to keep them busy. So they did really well.
There's a lot of emailing back and forth, or how did you really?
We emailed back and forth, and we had a webcam set up also so that we could see him, which worked out wonderfully.
What about, like I asked him about the chance of redeployment. What do you think? I mean, having to do it, go through all over again.
you know, I'd hate for him to have to go back. Of course, we'd let him go, you know, and but I'd sure hate to see it happen. It's nice having him home.
Can you name one more time?
Uh-huh.
Your name one more
Lisa Flores.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, what is your name?
Shelby Flores.
Hang on, Shelby. Okay, Shelby Flores? Okay, your name, hon?
Eric Flores.
What is it?
Eric Flores.
Eric? Tell me, what do you think about having your daddy home, and what do you think about all this? Him being pilot over there, and knowing he's a hero, and coming back to all this?
It was really exciting having him be able to come back after not seeing him for a year.
Was it hard without him for a year?
Yes, it was.
Was it nice being able to see him on the webcam, though, and on camera? What about the kids at school? What do they think about your daddy being gone, and are they always keeping up with it, too?
Yeah, they got to see videos of him, and they really appreciated him being fighting for them.
All right, thanks.